Hello, critters. Welcome to Life of Nerisse. Just a little update. I looked into going solar here. I just want to see what options I had. And I will never finance a solar install. Wow. I mean, now, I have no problem with the solar installers. I have no problem with anything of that nature. Matter of fact, the guy was straight up honest with me, so I appreciate that. But basically, I'm looking at $53,000 to put a solar system in here. And I'm going to explain why that's a ripoff and why I will never do that. Even though my payments for the solar would be about equal to what my electric bill currently is. Not quite, because he was using PNY or PNW, which doesn't work for me here because we have different fee structure. Basically, PNM, I think it's PNM, you'd have to still pay the $7 a month service charge, but here the service charges come to about $30 a month. So even with solar, I would still have to pay that $30 a month to have the grid connection. But it's pretty close. So why would I never do it? Well, first of all, I don't qualify for the solar credits, the solar rebates, where the federal and state pays about 25-30% of the install, because it's a tax rebate, which means you have to not make that much, you have to owe that much in taxes. So, for example, you have 6 years to amortize a solar system, so I would need to owe the IRS $10,000 a year. For me to owe the IRS $10,000 a year, I would already be making enough money to install $20,000 worth of batteries in my own homegrown solar system and go completely off grid, if I ever made enough money to owe the IRS $10,000. So, yeah, that don't work. That solar tax credit is basically only for wealthy people, even with a 6-year amortization. However, if they ever convert those tax credits to be refundable, that would work. Because then I would get the tax credit regardless of how much I owe in taxes. And I would probably jump on it in a heartbeat. But, even with that, I need to save up $10,000. If I save up $10,000 and then borrow $15,000 to $18,000 from my credit union at 2% interest, assuming I can get that, which I should be able to, then I would be able to get a solar system. And that $54,000 system would cost $28,000. So, I don't know why the federal government is not looking into this, because it's like felony theft. I mean, it's actually theft of government money, literally. They're charging anywhere between 67 and 93% interest on a solar install. Yeah. What? You're probably thinking, did you do something wrong with the math there, Chris? No. Oh, no. I didn't do anything wrong with the math. The actual quote I got was 93.55% actual interest rate. As I was talking to the guy on the phone, I was like, wait, what the fuck? He paused, and I was like, no. And he's like, you just did the numbers in your head, didn't you? And I was like, yeah, and I'm not liking what I'm seeing. So here's how the solar install works. They've rigged it so that they can steal 100% of the federal and state tax credits and still charge you an obscene interest rate after that, on top of that, and still get paid 100% for the solar system. So you get no tax credit whatsoever. There is no tax credit. It doesn't exist. It's a fiction, because the banks are taking it. Now, this is not the solar installers doing this. This is the banks doing this. So the first fuck you is there's a dealer fee the bank charges. It's an interest, upfront interest. And it's 25%. 25%. I think it was like 11,000 some odd dollars. He said the solar install was $41,000 and 25% of that was a dealer fee. And by the time I got done paying the loan, my payments would total almost $54,000. Like $53,700. 25-year loan, which has its own problems. So I was like, this doesn't make sense. Why? Wait a minute. I was like, how much is the cash price for the system? $28,000. So how are we coming to $53,700 and change with a 2.34% interest rate? It's because they charge you $11,000 interest payment up front as part of the install. So $11,000 of the $41,000 install. No, so it's $13,000. I'm sorry. I think the interest was $11,000, and the immediate interest in the beginning, the lump sum payment, was $13,000. So or something like that. It came out to a ridiculous number. So if I do a 25-year loan, it's $41,000. Your total payments will be just under $54,000. But if I pay you cash, it's $28,000. It's like, do you see the big disconnect between those two numbers there? That's because they're charging you a huge lump sum interest fee as part of the dealer fee, and that's from the bank, that's not from the solar company, to get the loan, to even get it. So they've got all their interest up front. You know, $13,000 in interest up front. They get that immediately. They get it right now. And then, for the next 25 years, you're paying 2.34% interest on the $28,000 for the install, and you're paying 2.34% APR interest on the $13,000 lump sum fee they charged you up front. So they're charging you interest on the interest for 25 years. Well, $28,000 means 1% is $280. Okay? So if you take $53,700 and some odd dollars and you subtract 53,000, it was 53,700 and something, so I'm just going to call it 700. 53,700, and you subtract the cost of the install, that's $25,700 to the bank. You divide that by 280 to figure out your percentage. That's 91.78% interest rate. That's an interest rate of 91.78%. And worse, that's a bad deal. Even if you were dumb enough to accept that, that's a bad deal all around. It's a 25-year loan on equipment that has a projected lifespan of 20 to 30 years. Oh, sure, it comes with a 25-year warranty, including labor. But if that company goes belly up in 4 years, there goes your warranty, but you still owe the bank the money. So now if your solar system fails and you can't afford to fix it, now you're paying the monthly bill and your electric bill. For 25 years. And people say, yeah, but your electric bill will never go up. But your electric bill can now never go down either. I did it. I lowered my electric bill $100 a month just by, or at least wintertime, about $70 a month in the summertime. I lowered my electric bill by simply switching over to time of use and then only using the high power stuff after 10:30 or during midday when electricity is 11 cents a kilowatt instead of 20 cents a kilowatt. You can't do that with the solar system. If you figure out a way to lower your power consumption, too bad. Your loan payment is still $160 a month. At least if I still had an electric bill, I can reduce my usage. If electricity gets crazy expensive, I can turn down how much I use. I can turn things off. Live without air conditioning in the summer. Live with less heat in the winter. Once you have that loan, that's it. You're locked in at 160 or whatever your payment is. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I was like, I borrowed almost $17,000 to buy my car, and I only paid $700 in interest. What's that make my effective interest rate? Or $16,000. Divided by 100, that's 160 is 1%. I paid 647 divided by 160. I paid 4%. My interest rate is a little bit less than 2%. I think it's like 1.94% or 1.84% or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it was. Maybe 1.74. I think it might be 1.74. But that's not your actual interest rate. Your actual interest rate is this number. You take the total loan, you divide it by 100, and then you take your interest, which is your total payments minus your principal, and you divide it by that number. So $16,000 loan, which means I have a percentile factor of 160. So I paid a total of $647 in interest. So divide that by 160, and I paid an actual interest rate of 4.04375%. 4%. I paid a 4% interest rate. And now they want me to, for a loan that's only $12,000 larger, they want me to pay 91.78% over the next 25 years? Do I have sucker written on top of my head here? Let me check. Yeah, I don't see sucker. I don't see a big L here. Over my dead body. I ran the numbers. If I were to get a if I were to come up with $10,000 down, so either sold stuff or just saved up until I had $10,000, so that I only had to borrow about $16,000, $17,000, then even with no tax credits, I would have a 10-year loan for the $15,000, $16,000, probably $17,000. I would have a 10-year loan at a price of $135 a month for 10 years, plus a $30 electric company, so it's $165. So it's only $5 more than my 12-month yearly average. My electric bill ranges from $75 to $300. It depends on how much heat I'm using and how much AC I'm using. But if you take the 12 months and divide by 12, it's about $160. Because I lowered it by using time of use, something I couldn't have done on solar. I would only have a 10-year loan, and I would only pay $1,600 in interest. So let's assume the same $16,000, so it'd be about $1,700 in interest. So 1,700 divided by 160, that's 10% interest effective. That's an effective interest rate of 10.625%. Versus their 91.78% interest and 25 years worth of payments. So now I would only have to make payments for 10 years. And then year 11, my payments stop. And now I just have to pay $30 a month to the electric company. That makes a hell of a lot more fucking sense than $160 a month for 25 years that I can never lower. And if the tax credits become refundable, so that I get 30% back as a refundable tax credit, I only have to make those payments for 4.5 years. So in 4.5 years, the loan will be paid off, the solar system will be mine, and I will have a $30 a month electric bill from then on. I mean, are you kidding me? 91% interest. I had to do the numbers multiple times, so I figured that can't be right. That just can't be right. But it was. 91% interest. One guy was arguing with me. Oh no, the numbers would be like this. I was like, even your numbers is 67% interest. I'm not giving a bank 67% interest. I'd rather not have solar. I'd rather just keep paying the electric company than hand a bank a 67% interest bonus check. Well, I gotta hope that system lasts for 25 years, or the company warrantying it lasts for 25 years. Because how many companies do you know that last 25 years? If that company goes bankrupt and starts up with a new business name, my warranty goes poof. At least then, if after 10 years they go bankrupt, well, at least then the loan's paid off, and I still have the equipment. I could just go back to paying my electric bill until I can afford to fix the equipment. At least then I won't have both the equipment loan and the electric bill loan. I couldn't believe it. I was like, who would say yes to this? Is the loan backed by the government? Is the government going to forgive my loan if the company goes out of business? No. If the company goes out of business and the system breaks, it's on me to fix it. And what are you going to do? You're going to fix an 11 kilowatt system yourself? You're going to have to pay someone to fix it. Unless you really know what you're doing. You might not even be allowed. It's a grid tie. You might not be allowed to fix it yourself. Wow. I mean, that's like people who walk in to buy a car and all they care about is how much is the monthly payment. I was like, you realize they're signing you up for an 8-year loan for that car, right? To get your payment, you're going to pay double the value of the car. You're going to pay 40 grand for a 20 grand car. Your car will be used up and in the scrapyard. You'll be halfway done your payments in 4 years, and you'll still owe the bank the full value of the car. Because they get their interest first, and then you still owe for the car. Wow. That is designed, that whole system is designed to steal the federal and state tax credits. That's the only reason that exists like that. To steal the federal and state tax credits and still ream you up the ass with interest. Why is no one looking at this? Why is the federal government not going, knock, knock, hello, bank, what the fuck are you doing? I mean, this is worse than college becoming more expensive because the government backs student loans. This is a slap in your face. This is them going, fuck you, we're taking the tax credit and you're still paying double interest. The tax credits won't even cover the interest. Wow. That's amazing. If anybody knows, am I thinking about this the wrong way? Am I looking at this the wrong way? Am I making some sort of an error somewhere? I don't think I can be. He told me the cash price was $28,000, and he told me the loan price with payments was $53,700. I mean, that's pretty simple math at that point. $53,700 minus cash price $28,000 is $25,700 in fees and interest. You divide that by 280, which is the percentile factor for the principal. It's 91.78571428571429% interest. it's 92% interest. Did I make a mistake somewhere? Wow. And what's going to happen when solar dies? Because solar's dead. You realize that. Solar's a dead end. Solar can't work except on a utility scale. On a utility scale, solar and wind work. On a personal grid tie scale, solar does not work. temporarily it works. But as more and more people get solar, you're going to see electric companies doing exactly what our electric company does. They charge $30 a month for service. So this way, no matter how much solar you have, they're still getting their $30 a month. Oh, and you can't carry over your kilowatts either. It's per month. So that means my average usage would necessitate a 9 kilowatt solar system. Nope. I need more like a 12 kilowatt solar system. Basically, I need a solar system that produces 100% of my January-February usage in January and February. Because the excess power that I generate in June, you can't carry that over to December. There's no banking kilowatts, credits. So I have to generate enough power for my maximum month, whatever my highest bill of the year is, and my worst weather of the year. I need a system sized for that month. So I need a system that's oversized because, obviously in the wintertime you're not going to get as good a solar because the solar angle is lower. The sun is lower in the sky. The solar panels work better when the light is hitting the panel perpendicular. That's why we tilt the panels. All right? So you're already getting, unoptimal usage as the sun comes up, higher, highest, lower. Well, in the wintertime, the sun's down here. So your highest time in the wintertime is like your mid-morning in the summer. And so, even if you have full light like we do here in New Mexico, you're still going to see like 30% less production in your winter months than you are in your summer months. So, and of course, if you have electric heat, like I do, you have to account for the higher usage of power to run the electric heat. And so I need to size my system even larger. It's probably going to be more like a $30,000 system. Because I need enough production for my worst month. And you're going to see more and more electric companies do that because, and I don't blame the electric companies for this because it makes sense. What happens when everybody is generating all of their solar needs during the day? Who pays the electric company to run at night? Ultimately, in the long run, the only way solar makes sense is if you have storage. Because then you can just go to the grid. But now, of course, you have to make your own power, store your own power, and do your own maintenance when that power fails. So, got to think about that. It did give me an idea, though, of something I want to try. I want to try it with something that uses a decent amount of power. So, I'm going to start with the refrigerator. That's a pretty decent, power-hungry little gizmo. So, I want to see how much power the refrigerator consumes. Should be about 150 watt hours per day, I think it is. Fridges are pretty efficient. So the idea is this. You know how I have those smart outlets? And those smart outlets allow me to turn things on and off. I can also program a schedule of turning things on and off. And so for example, in the summertime, power is 20 cents a kilowatt hour from 4:30 to 10:30, and then from 10:30 until 4:30 the next day, it's 11 cents a kilowatt. So basically, I want to turn off my refrigerator from 4:30 to 10:30. In the wintertime, I need to do that twice because we have two on-peak times. You have 4:30 to 10:30, and then you also have 6:30 to 9. So that's a 6-hour window and a 2.5-hour window where I want to turn the fridge off. So I'm not being charged 20 cents a kilowatt hour to run the fridge. But I don't want the fridge to stop working. So the idea is I can take a bunch of these things, because I have a whole bunch of them. I mean, I have like 20 of these things, maybe 30 of them. So I can put up to 4 of these together. So if I put 4 10-amp-hour units together, that's 40 amp hours. And 40 amp hours times 12.8 volts is 512 watt hours. That should be enough to run that fridge. Matter of fact, I might only need 2 of them. But I might need like 3 just to handle the amp load when that compressor kicks. Might even be worth leaving the lead-acid battery in the circuit, so the lead-acid battery can soak up the amp load when when the compressor turns on for a split second, and give these guys a break, and these guys will just handle the continuous running, which they can easily handle. Disable the buzzer inside the UPS so it doesn't make any noise. So I would plug the fridge into the UPS on a much bigger battery, a battery big enough to run it for 6 hours, and then have that UPS plugged into one of those smart timers to kill the power during the 6-hour window in the summertime and the 6 and the 2.5-hour window in the wintertime. So basically, I'll still use the same amount of power. I'll just be using that power only when it's 11 cents a kilowatt. So when the power is 11 cents a kilowatt hour, it'll be running the fridge and charging the battery. And when the high peak time comes, it will kill the power from the grid using the timer switch, which will cause the UPS to automatically switch over to battery power. That's why we have to disable the beeper. Otherwise, the whole house is going to go at 4:30 when all the stuff turns off. So kill the beeper, and it'll run the fridge on the battery, which got the power from when it was 11 cents a kilowatt. And that's pretty efficient. There's some losses there, but it'd be an interesting proof of concept to see, can I make that work? I could probably run a whole bunch of stuff that way. Like, for example, the UPS that runs my speakers and my TV, I bet you 2 of these would be enough to run all that for 3 or 4 hours. So I can just have that continuously, so I won't even have the vampire loads when the power is 20 cents a kilowatt. With the ultimate objective being this house consumes 0 power during times when it's 20 cents a kilowatt. So I'd effectively only be paying 11 cents a kilowatt. That would be pretty nice. That would be damn nice. So that's an idea. I'm going to try that. I'm going to start with the fridge, and I'm going to try the fridge. And so I'm going to put a meter on it, see how much power it consumes each day. See if I can get a graph detailed enough, see how high the spikes go. Try to get an idea of the max power draw, because I have to, for time I need watt hours, but for max draw I need amp hours. I need to make sure that because these batteries are high capacity. Like, this is an 8 amp hour battery, so that's 12.8 times 8. It's 102 watt hours, but it doesn't have a lot of capacity. Not capacity. So you have, it has a lot of energy, but not a lot of power. So 102 watt hours is how much energy it has. How much power it has is how big of a load can I put on this battery. Even if it's only for a few seconds, how big of a load can I put on here? That I don't know. Does it tell me anywhere? These are usually pretty low. They're usually about 1/2 C. So that would be 102 watt. That would be a 50 watt load. That's not a lot. I might be able to get away with a 1C load for a very short period of time. Maybe. I don't know. I'll have to test it. So if that's the case, I can do 4 of these, and that would give me a 400 watt load, which might not be enough still. So I'd probably have to use the 12 amp hour batteries. That's 153 watt hours for the 12 amp batteries. So the fridges might need more than that. What about 20 amp batteries? 20 times 0.8. That's 256 watt hours. So 2 of them would be a 500 watt load for a couple of seconds. I think it would handle that. But I think a fridge needs more like, I think a fridge is like 700 watts start. Like that kick when it first starts the compressor. Now, I don't know how long it is though. So can I draw 2C from this for 15 seconds? Will it handle that? I don't know. I'm going to have to find out. So it might be worth keeping the lead acid battery in there and simply adding these onto it, because these are lithium iron phosphate batteries, but they're 12 volt lead acid compatible. So what that means is that this is one of the reasons why they have a power limitation. There's circuitry inside of here that takes the normal, 13.8, 14 volt charging power that you would normally put into a 12 volt battery, and it handles using that power to recharge the batteries inside here. So you can just plug this into a UPS or plug this into your normal gadget, or a larger one you can plug into your car, and it'll charge off an alternator, etc., etc. It'll handle that, your lawn tractor. So the only problem is the power. It has the energy capacity, but doesn't have the power, because fridges and freezers, like a freezer takes like no power. One of these is probably enough for a freezer if it could handle the power of that compressor kicking on. So it might not have enough juice to handle the power of that compressor kicking on. However, if I put this together with the lead acid battery might be able to soak up the that power demand and give this battery a break. But this battery will provide the longevity, keeping the device running. So, and that way, even if the lead acid battery goes bad, it only has to provide power for a few seconds. So even as the 12 volt battery degrades, it's okay. It's still usable until it doesn't work at all, because the lead acid battery only has to provide that load for a few seconds, until the compressor's up and going. Once the compressor's going, then this has more than enough power to run it. So that'll be interesting. What I need is some small batteries that are the opposite of this. Low capacity, high power output. I do have some of those. They're very expensive. I got them from that review program. They're who makes them? They're starter batteries. They're for motorcycles, lawn tractors, wave runners, stuff like that. Starting an engine, where they don't have much capacity, but they can handle a hard hit of power. That would be interesting for the coffee maker, for example. So, like, the coffee maker takes probably 1,200 watts, I want to guess. 1,200 watts. So that means I need 1,200 watt hours to run that thing for 1 hour. But what if I only need, what does it take? 6 minutes to make me a cup of coffee? So 1,200 divided by 60, that's 20 watt hours per minute times 6. I only need 120 watt hours. So if I had 120 watt hours of capacity, let's call it double that, times 2, especially if we make 2 cups of coffee, and a 50% duty cycle would be healthier for it. If I had a high output battery that had but then you'd need a UPS that's capable of putting that out. And even the big ones only handle 900 watts. So they might not actually be able to handle the coffee maker. I got to see how much power that coffee maker consumes. It's got a real-time heater inside for the water, so I bet you it's a lot. Let's look it up. There it is. What is the power consumption? It might not tell me. Instant Pod coffee maker. Coffee maker specifications. The Walmart listing doesn't tell me how much power it consumes. Here's a manual. I saw something that said DCS 1200. I'm willing to bet you that 1200 is how much power it consumes. Maybe not. Alright, here's the manual. Product specifications. 120 volts, 60 hertz, 1500 watts. Woo! So yeah, that thing draws 1500 watts. So 1500 divided by 60. That's not what I wanted to do. So that's 25 watts, 25 watt hours per minute. So it usually takes about 2 minutes for it to heat up, and then another 2 or 3 for it to pour the cup. So let's call it 6 times 6. That's 150 watt hours per 6 minutes of operation. Now it's probably not 1500 watts the whole time. It's probably 1500 watts, and then it peters down a little bit. But yeah, woo-hoo. So that's not going to be practical in the beginning. Actually, lead acid batteries would be better for that, because you don't need a whole lot of capacity. You only need 150 watt hours. To do 2 cups, you would need 300 watt hours. But it needs to be able to push 1500 watts. So the 150 watt hours is how much energy it uses, while 1500 watts is how much power it needs. Yeah, that's a lot. Wow. Because they get you in the wintertime, because they know you wake up in the morning, you turn the heater on, you turn the coffee maker on, and that's when everybody's using a lot of power. So that's when you really want to cut back on the power. At that point, you're better off, waiting until you have the money for a big battery. And then you use that battery to run everything. So like a 300 amp hour battery, that's 3,840 kilowatt hours. And even at 1/2 C, and I know it can handle 200 amps, but even at 1/2 C, that's 150 amp hours. And I know it has a 200 amp BMS inside, so it can put out 200 amps. So that is what you would want to use to run the big stuff. Like if you're going to run the microwave for 4 minutes to make a bowl of oatmeal, and the coffee maker for 6 minutes to make a cup of coffee, you're talking you only need 300 watt hours of capacity, but you need that the high amp load to handle that device drawing that much power. Ooh, I wonder how many amps their 100 amp hour unit can put out. 100 watt hour. Because the 300 watt hour battery is $1,000, but 100 amp hour. But the 100 amp hour battery is significantly less. So let's do that's what the hell. We're here. Let's do it. 100 AH. So you are looking at $300. That's what I thought. Yeah, you're looking at about $300. And that's 1.284 kilowatt hours. But how many amps? So that's how much energy it has, but how much power does it have? Oh, you can parallel up to 8 of them, and 4 in series. Nice. Because if you could afford to go to 24 volt, it's a lot more efficient. But it doesn't tell me what the amp limit is. What's the amp limit? Maximum discharge 100 amps. And it can charge at 20 amps, which is cool. Okay, so that would be 100 amps. That's only 1,280 watt hours, so this can only handle a 1.2 kilowatt load. So you'd need 2 of these to be able to run a 1500 watt device. If I'm reading that right, max continuous discharge, max load 1280 watts. Yeah, so this is not enough. You would need like 150 amp hours. Do they make that? And how much does it cost? They do make 150 amp hour, but it costs significantly more money. Meaning 150 amp hours costs almost as much as 200 amp hours. Meaning at that point, although this one, that's 100 amp hours. 100 amp hours, 100 amp hours. Yeah, at that point you're better off just using 2 batteries. But now it doesn't make sense anymore. Now you're paying $600. Now you're paying $600 plus the inverter. Just so that you can save a minuscule amount of money, because what's that's only 600 watt hours. That's not even a kilowatt. So you're spending $600 to save 10 cents every morning. That just doesn't make sense at that point. Now, if you went solar powered, that might make sense, because let's be honest, how often do you actually use the coffee maker and the microwave? Probably infrequently enough that you might be able to just have no grid at all. And if you use each of them, let's say 3 times a day, that's 1.8 kilowatts times 365. I am not in the calculator. 1.8 kilowatt times 365, that's 657 kilowatt hours times 0.2, $131. So it does make sense. That could work. That would give me a 2.4 kilowatt load capacity. So I could draw 2.4 kilowatts from that safely, which is well above my 1500 watt necessity. I couldn't run the microwave and the coffee pot, but I could run them one at a time. And then connect solar panels to that, and you wouldn't even need very large solar panels. Actually, you wouldn't need very many solar. You need one. If you got one 400 watt panel, what were those panels? Were they 400 watt panels or 265 watt panels? The $85 panels that I can get locally for sale. Oh wow, 1985 Fiat Bertone. That's a cool looking car. Do we have any local panels for sale? They might be out. They come and go. That's a mount. That's a mount. Okay, so here's a 250 watt panel for $100. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. Wow, the price has gone up. These used to be $85. Now they're $100. You sneaky little bastards. Okay, so let's say 250 watt panel. Let's say conservatively you get 175 watts out of it. That is 1.75 kilowatts. So to be safe, you need 2 panels. So 2 panels will be enough to cover 100% of your power usage. So that is 600 plus 200. I already got the inverter, but let's say you need the inverter, 100. And a charge controller is like $40. So you got $1,880 invested. Did I do that right? Seems like a lot. No, it's right. No, something's wrong. Yeah, minus 900. You got $980 invested, and it's going to save you 1.8 times 365 times 0.2. It's going to save you $131 a year divided by 131.4. The ROI is 7.45 years, and that equipment will last 20. Well, call it 15. So you could spend 980 bucks. I can't. I don't have the money right now. Actually, I have all the equipment except for the batteries. So for me, it would only be 600 bucks. Um, that's interesting. If I add like 4 solar panels, I could probably put most of the kitchen on the batteries. Put the fridge on there. Put the the cooktop might not work. That might be too much power. But if I have 4 or 5 panels, that might work. But that would allow me to have the microwave on the batteries, the fridge on the batteries, the Instant Pot on the batteries, not the Dutch oven because that runs too long, so too much power draw, too much capacity draw, too much energy. But all the short use or low power stuff, I could put all that on the battery pack, and just out front put 4 solar panels for 400 bucks, and that kilowatt of solar panels will generate 175 times 4 times 10 will generate 7 kilowatts of energy. Did I do that wrong? 175 times 4, 700 watts times 10, 7 kilowatts a day. So I could use up 7 kilowatts each day, and those solar panels will be able to restore all the power I used. And those batteries have 2.4 kilowatt hours of power in them, which is an awful lot of usage. So yeah, this would work. Oh, that's interesting. I would have to buy the solar panels and the batteries. So that's $1,000. 600 bucks for the batteries, 400 bucks for the solar panels. I've already got charge controllers. I've already got inverters. Like, for example, over here, I could put the coffee machine and the microwave on the same inverter. And probably put the Instant Pot on the same inverter, too. Just run a heavy-duty extension cord over and run all 3 of those on one inverter, and then have a smaller inverter for the fridge. Boy, that's interesting. So the payback would be 7 years. Actually, less, because I would also be removing the fridge altogether. I think the fridge only uses 150 watt hours per day. So that's divided by 1,000. That's 54 kilowatt hours times. The fridge only costs $11 a year? No way. It can't be that low. No way. No way it's that efficient. 800 to 1200 watt hours per day. A running wattage of 150 watt hours. So it's a kilowatt a day. So it'd be 365 kilowatt hours per year. 365 times 0.2. So $73 a year to run the fridge. What do we say? 131.4 to run the microwave and the coffee machine. But now we'd be using it more often. So since I would have 7 kilowatts to use each day, we could use it more often. We wouldn't have to be so. I have 2 microwaves. So the ROI could be as low as 3 years, because I'm coming up at 304. So 304 times. That's not working. Reset. No, I did something wrong. 1.75 times 365, 1277 And then the fridge was 365. That's 1,642 kilowatt hours. And we use the air fryer Instant Pot, call it 5 times a week, and it runs for 15 minutes. Assuming it averages 1,200 watts, 1,200 watt hours divided by 60 times 15, that's 300 times 5 times 50. So 75 kilowatt hours. The lights, those 3 lights, 8, 16, 24, figure 12-hour duty cycle, probably more like 10 hours. So 24 times, let's call it 10 to be safe, 240 times 365 divided by 1,000, 86 kilowatt hours plus 87 actually. That's 1,804 kilowatt hours times 0.2. That's $360 a year it could save me in total, which is not a lot, but the system would only cost $1,000. Divided by 360. 2.78 years payback time. That's not bad. An ROI of 2.7 years? That's pretty good. That's actually pretty good. And I could probably tap into that breaker, because the coffee machine, the microwave, and the Instant Pot all run off one breaker. Ooh, that's interesting. And I think the fridge might be its own breaker too, but we can just run a cord for the fridge. Oh, that's interesting. Because that might be easy to wire up. Just interrupt the... Instead of running the wire to the outlets, run the wire to my system first, and then run the wire to the outlets. But I would also have to... well, they'd be off-grid. They wouldn't be part of the breaker box anymore. Basically, I would be installing my own breaker box with my own inverter, and it would have no connection to the grid whatsoever. What I might do is have a battery charger plugged into the grid. So if for some reason those batteries ever get low, I can just flip on the charger, because I do not want any part of my solar system touching the grid. Because if the power goes down for damage or maintenance or whatever, you don't want to be backfeeding power into the grid from your solar panels and frying some poor technician up on a pole. Power off, yeah. Chris, you bastard. So I don't want that to touch any part of the grid. But yeah, I can just put in my own single breaker, running to my own inverter and charge controller, and have it connect to that one circuit. That could work. That would be interesting to go one piece of the house on solar, just a piece of it, and see how that works. I might have to try that. So, what are your guys' ideas? What are your guys' thoughts? What do you think of that? Let me know.